All right, good morning. Welcome to FAM's second podcast episode. Today's guest is a young founder building in one of the most competitive and noisy spaces out there, crypto iGaming. In the past few months, I've been following him closely on LinkedIn. He's a deeply product-led individual, openly challenging industry assumptions and talking honestly about what doesn't work and what does work and what should be fixed. He's also building a company with co-founder he's known for over 20 years, which adds a whole other layer to his story, in my opinion. I'm really excited to welcome Sean Honeyman, co-founder and CEO of Rollify Crypto Casino. Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Absolute pleasure to be here, Adar. Yeah, you know so many people. I'm happy to be on podcast number 2. It's a great honor.
Thank you for coming. So let's get started and maybe start at the very beginning. You mentioned in, I think it was your last LinkedIn post, that you've known your co-founders for over 20 years. That's something quite unusual, especially for someone young. What made you confident enough to say, yes, these are the people I want to build something serious with?
I think the truth is, like, we're all young, hungry guys, and we've been talking about doing business for a long time. And I think it was just a question of time, right? Eventually, as you get older, you hit a certain point in confidence and testosterone and all these things, and you just decide now is the place. And of course, there's also years and years of like really deep philosophical questions about what we want out of life and all these things. And yeah, I remember the day, really, we'd been planning to start a business for a while. We had a lot of ideas about building on-chain and Web3. But eventually, I think it was just one day we just spotted that opportunity. There was a moment in time where we just said, now is the time to go. And I remember texting my co-founder, Oliver, at the time. I said, we're doing this. Like, today is the day. We're doing it with or without you, right? But he obviously wanted to come on board. And yeah, I think, as you said, you know, there's no one thing, there's no one moment per se. It's just all the years rolling together and resulting in that point where it's just like, okay, now is the time.
Mm-hmm. And I look at co-founders as sort of superheroes, right? If you were like a team of superheroes or very capable individuals, which you probably are, what differentiates between you? What kind of different roles do you have? Like, speaking very high level, you know, different roles, different...
Sure. So it's 3 of us. It's me, Ollie, and Harvey. I'd say we all have such unique personalities. Harvey's extremely creative. He dropped out of school from a very young age and self-taught himself graphic design, UI, UX, ended up working with some really big gaming brands early on, like Saw and FaZe and G Fuel. So he has that natural rebellious side to drop out of school, and also the drive to self-teach himself and the creativity to just express himself visually. So he leads a lot of our creative UI, UX, a lot of our copywriting, things like this. And then we have Oliver, who is a very interesting skill set. He's one of those guys which started making money very early on from a young age, and he has that independent entrepreneurial mindset. And he can just get things done and has very high agency. I like this question that someone poses, which is like, if you woke up one day and you're in a jail cell in a foreign country in the middle of nowhere, who would you call? And maybe apart from my mum and dad first, the next person would be Oliver, because he just has this ability to get shit done. So with Harvey, you've got the creator. Ollie is more this quite effective guy at getting stuff done in the real world. And then myself, I'm an organizer. I've always liked to write documents and organize things in a clear way, very process-driven. And I also love with Web3. Been living and breathing it for the past 3 to 5 years, been living on crypto quite a lot. So I really live online, and that's sort of what I bring to the table, is this organization and awareness of the context in which we work in.
Yeah, I love this jailhouse metaphor. It's a really good one, and obviously a very effective one. How do you separate friendship, though, from decision making when things get tense?
It's a funny one, you know. I think because we've been friends for so long, there's not much conscious separation that's happening, and this can be a good thing and a bad thing, because we're so comfortable with each other, we just speak very freely and we express ourselves very freely in that sense. So this is beautiful for communication because the best ideas always rise to the surface, but it's also, there's maybe a lack of respect when we speak to each other that you might have when you speak with a colleague who you've only known for a few months, right? There's this professional respect. So, you know, things do get quite heated, right, a lot of the time, especially because, you know, we've known each other since 5 years old. Ollie used to steal my toys and I used to chase him and cry and, you know, all this stuff. So there are these years and years of all these experiences, and ultimately, like, my co-founders know me better than anyone. So my feeling is ultimately that's a double-edged sword where they can communicate too comfortably, but then at the same time you need that for truth to rise to the surface. So yeah, when things get heated, I think it's fine also. Like in one of my previous startups, very Gen Z, very beautiful attitude and approach to how we work together and how we do business. But something which sounds quite strange is I've always said that in that first startup, we didn't fight enough. We didn't argue enough and get heated. And I think that's what you need sometimes, right? You need someone to, if I think I have a really good idea, the worst thing my co-founders and team can do is not challenge me on it, right? I'm so excited and they just let me get carried away. And then weeks and months later, it's like, oh, why did we do this? Or why did no one push back against it? So yeah, I think you should not actively avoid conflict. It's just how you go about it and how you resolve it afterwards. And I think we've learned to do that exceptionally well, but it's something you build up over time. Initially, we were not so good at it because maybe we were too comfortable and casual. And now, though, we've grown to respect the business and respect how we each have our different approaches, our different ways of thinking, and we can talk those through quite sensibly.
Speaking of this long friendship and its transition into business, was there ever a moment where this long history actually made things harder, not easier? So you talked about the advantages, right? The fact that they're direct, the fact that they challenge you openly, which is obviously very productive, but has it been challenging as well and made things harder and not easier at some moments?
I wouldn't say it's made things harder. It's just made things different in certain ways. So there is the double-edged sword, which I mentioned before, right? Where there's this sense of comfort that you have with those. It's almost like, I'm not sure, do you have a brother or sister, Adar?
Yes, I have an older sister.
That's it. And I'm sure you know her better than most people and you love her to death and have a great relationship. But some of the arguments you might have with her over the past are silly ones, which you wouldn't have with other people. And it's almost because you know your family too well. So it's almost as if there are these triggers, these subconscious things that trigger each other. And maybe that's something we struggled with a little bit at the start. Also, like, just speaking very candidly, you know, we're all highly driven males who want to be the best. And there's this weird tension sometimes where we all want the best for each other, but there is this subtle sense of whether it's ego or wanting to be the best, which we all have in us. So sometimes that can lead to conversations getting more heated than they should, because maybe Harvey his idea and he thinks it's the best and he wants to push it through, and maybe it's just me not being able to lower my ego to acknowledge that he has the better idea, right? And I think when you're working with colleagues who you don't have the friendship with, it's easier to maybe respect other people's opinions, but almost too much so, right? It's because you don't want things to get heated, whereas I'm comfortable getting heated with my boys because I know we'll always come around and resolve it. And it's usually very quick, right? It's never like things escalate to the point where it all falls apart. It's just very open, honest, truthful conversations, which can cause a little bit of pain at the time. And we'll all have our competing egos and instincts and so on. But we've really found a way now to operate and overcome those things nicely. And the term we use internally a lot is like a hive mind, where each of us has different strengths and blind spots. But as long as we communicate together and share all the information between us, then we all have the information and the viewpoints together. And that creates a new sort of hive mind layer, which is really helps us find some interesting outcomes.
Yeah, hive mind. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, let's jump into a different topic, but very related, of course. You've launched Rollify only a few months ago. I was there at the beginning as well, and I've seen you grow since. But let's talk a little about expectations versus reality. So when you launched Rollify, what were you most confident about? And in hindsight, what's something you got completely wrong?
One thing we were extremely confident about was it was a misplaced misunderstanding of the more traditional affiliate and gaming side of things. Our background is all in Web3, really, so we're coming into this new without the iGaming experience, and somewhat naively, I think we thought we could just list on a few of these big SEO affiliate websites and we'd get traction and traffic immediately, especially because you look at a lot of the fiat brands and things out there, and the quality of the products is nowhere near as good as some of the crypto casino brands like Rollify and of course others now as well. So I think we maybe thought it would be easier than it was in this more traditional sense, because you look at the fiat brands and I was like, we're going to steal their lunch for sure, because the product is clunky, the UI UX. Sometimes I use the sites and I feel like it's going to give me like a virus or something when I use it. So there was this sense that we could go in and just quickly eat up that market share, but it turns out that these users are very different to the more crypto users that we are used to. So yeah, I would say there's those two things where maybe we thought it would be easier to compete on these fronts because we misunderestimated some of our competition and overestimated the value of these traditional affiliate sources. But ultimately, I think that's just because it's such a big ocean, such a wide world where there are so many good affiliates out there and so many good products out there that in amongst all the sea of stuff, you forget that there's always this power law that takes place, which is the 80-20 rule. So there will be this small percentage of operators and affiliates which are just dominating and delivering the best results. And to break into that tiny percentage is a lot harder than it seems, despite seemingly the abundance of average products and brands out there just doing normal traditional affiliate traffic. So yeah, I think there's a lot more we have to learn in terms of this more traditional iGaming affiliate side. And that's why it's great speaking to folks like you and connecting with you folks who have that more traditional experience.
Yeah, it's true. I do have that more traditional experience. I've been in iGaming for over 15 years, and obviously most of it, worked in and around and for fiat operations. But in the last 12 months, as you know, I've been exposed and connected to dozens of crypto operators, most of which have a pretty good product. And like you mentioned, the space is becoming more and more competitive. But how educated do you think, or do you know how educated players are? If I judge myself, I'm an exception. Like, I've played these dozens of these brands. I've connected with the founders. I've looked under the hood whenever I could, etc. But how educated are players? What are their expectations, and do they actually compare you, to others, out loud and look for features or things that they get in other places?
Overall, the consumer is definitely getting smarter. I think Duel have really accelerated that with their 100% RTP originals, because it almost was like a penny dropping for a lot of users who saw that, where it's like, oh, like, this is how it all works, and why would I not play on Duel is their usual thinking. But at the same time, there is a little bit of uneducation there as well, where there's a misunderstanding of what RTP means and the fact that it's over a long time horizon instead of a very short one. And in terms of their tastes and their expectations, I think people are really wisening up. I think recently chips.gg got thrown in a bit of a scandal because they were called out for having some predatory withdrawal policies. And this is something that's becoming very big for the average user now, is this idea of, can the casino even afford to pay me out? And I think that's why brands like iBankroll are so interesting, which we've partnered with now to give us this liquidity that can guarantee us being able to pay out our big players. And yeah, I think the audience is only going to get more and more educated. They're not going to accept shady sites which don't show the stats or don't show the RTPs. So I think more and more now casinos must trend towards transparency. And you also sent me something quite interesting the other day, which is this idea of having more public-facing founders in this space, because it's so important for trust. So I think if the direction is moving that way, it makes sense. People want to be educated about who the team is, who the founder is. Am I going to get my winnings out if I win big? And I think this level of education is only going to keep getting better as more and more people become online, are learning online, are playing around with crypto. I mean, crypto, you've got to educate yourself extremely fast because it's a pay-to-learn environment. You cannot learn crypto by sitting on the sidelines just watching. You have to get involved. You have to buy that meme coin. You have to get rugged on that NFT project, whatever it might be. And then you learn these lessons. So I think the whole world is trending more and more towards that now. So yeah, we've got to be at our best because the audience will be very educated now.
Yeah, you touched on something very interesting. Just the other day, like a couple days ago, Glenn De Battista posted on LinkedIn a survey asking people like us, people working in the space, how often do you gamble? And I think nearly 50% of the people said they do not gamble ever, which was a bit funny for me. Like you said, you need to get your hands dirty, so to speak. You need to get your hands, actually do the work if you want to understand your user base, I think. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's a given, especially in crypto. There are so many unique things about Web3, whether it's the shared trauma or the shared languages, like there's all these little unique phrasings, and the sense of humor. And honestly, if you try to fake that, right, people can sort of see through it. So I think there's quite a common issue. We've spoken to some massive Web2 brands who have really good fiat casinos, and they've always struggled whenever they try and launch a crypto casino brand because there is this lack of understanding of the context in which they're working. And it's not about just saying GM, right, or coining some of these terms. It's, do you have the shared experience with your user? Have you gone through the FTX crash, the Terra Luna crash? Have you seen all these things and experienced all these cycles that have happened in crypto? You had the ICO phase, you had the metaverse, you had NFTs, you had meme coins, prediction markets now, and each of these have had the rise and fall and the antagonists and protagonists of each cycle, and there are all these little jokes and references that are sort of built into this. So definitely you need to get down and dirty and play the product, be with your community to speak to them in the same language, because otherwise if you're not speaking to them in the same language, they're just going to go somewhere else. So yeah, for me, it's unsurprising that most people in this industry don't gamble. I think it's because once you know how the sausages are made, you probably eat less sausages. But at the same time,
very true.
Yeah, but at the same time, some people just keep eating, right? So I do enjoy trading. I've always enjoyed trading on the crypto side, and I think gambling is just a little bit of an extension of that. So yeah, you've got to play your product. You've got to play all your competitors' products, and you've got to see really why should people play my product over yours, and then you can understand. I also think you just need to understand your competitors and the market you work in, not necessarily to copy them, but to look at what they're not doing, right? So you can have an edge and find these edges in your experience.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you 100%. Like you mentioned at the beginning, you need to be in the same place as your users. You need to share their language, their experiences, etc. But at the same time, you have to be very knowledgeable about what's happening in the space. Who are your competitors? Who are your potential collaborators? Who else is in this market? So, like you mentioned, one of the first things I do when I ask people, when I talk to new founders, to new operators, usually I ask them, have you already played on X, Y, Z, and Gamma? You need to do that. It's part of the experience. You need to see what they have, what they lack, etc., where they excel, where they fail. So I totally agree about that. Let's talk a little about marketing. You've said publicly in one of your posts, and I quote, "Streamers are not a distribution strategy." I tend to agree with this, but why do you think so many founders still believe they are?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, before I continue, like, I'd say most of my LinkedIn stuff is just me thinking out loud of what my personal experience is. It's not supposed to be a truth. I don't think I've earned the right to lecture people or tell people this is the way, this is the advice. So yeah, everything I post on LinkedIn and everything I say on this podcast as well, just speaking from my own experience. Streamers are not a distribution channel, I think, unless you've got like Aiden Ross or someone with a huge audience already. I think the key thing with streamers is, and my co-founder probably says I shouldn't be saying this because we know there are a lot of casinos wasting money on streamers without doing the important part, which is the clipping and distribution of those clips. So a streamer is his audience are gonna play on your platform, but usually the revenue that you're gonna get from that streamer is not really gonna be more than what you're paying him, especially because the market is extremely inflated right now. So like RainBet getting Aiden Ross for 75 million, I don't think they're gonna get a direct ROI from that, let's say. So I think the key thing to do is you need to get a few streamers who really represent your brand well. They can be your avatar and really represent who you're going for as a user base. And then you need to clip and distribute these clips through social media, in particular Instagram, I would say, and also Twitter a little bit. But really you need to clip them and integrate them with meme lord, edgy content, and just distribute them, because really whenever I've seen Aiden Ross and these guys on my feed, it's usually just a clip. It's a clip of their big win and they're going crazy. So if you're just paying streamers to stream and you're thinking that you're going to get an ROI from that, in our experience, that hasn't really worked. And I think even if you get Aiden Ross and the top guys, they will bring you a certain amount of traffic, but they cost so much now because it's such an inflated market. And you have all these, like, not going to lie, like dumb brands coming in with so much money who are new, and they're just spending all the money on all these affiliates, all these streamers without getting ROI, and it's just pushing all the prices up. So yeah, the key thing I meant by that is just streamers by themselves and not necessarily a distribution strategy. They need to be paired with the clipping and the content distribution networks on Instagram and Twitter and potentially TikTok as well, but a bit harder to push casino content.
More amplifying is what I'm hearing. You need further distribution channels that amplify what they do.
Exactly, because the streamer has his audience and that's it. And he's doing the best to grow his audience, of course, but you're just limited then by what he can do on his own. Whereas if you are taking his content and amplifying it, you create this beautiful, like, positive upward spiral where not only are you getting more out of your streamer's content, but the streamer is also growing as well. And if he's your avatar, one of your few who you've really chosen for the quality of their content and the fact that they represent your brand, then it's just going to be fantastic. It's this positive spiral where he's growing, you're growing, and yeah, I think that's the best recipe for success, instead of paying a streamer to stream and just hoping that all his guys come and play on your platform. I wish it was that easy.
So if streamers are no longer, let's say, the magic answer, what is, or is there even one, especially for early stage B2C, right? They have less budget, are a lot more anxious about their ROI, quick ROIs. What other marketing channels can they use?
Yeah, I think people like to look for shortcuts a lot. This magic traffic source or this magic thing which will automatically bring you a lot of returns. I think the truth is, like, it's a lot of things that come together at once. For me, I start first always with product. If you've not got a good product, you're not going to convert anyone. So really just focus on making that good first. And that's what we've been focused on for the past 7 months since launch, is making sure it's smooth, making sure it's fast, seamless, and intuitive. And we've still got a lot of work to do there. It'll be a never-ending journey for sure. And then the second thing related to acquisition is, I think you've got to really know your avatar, like who is your ideal target audience, and just already separating whether they're fiat or crypto users, that already take you a way of a way. But then really diving deeper and understanding, because there's so many different people out there. You've got to understand, are you looking for guys who are very degenerate and risky? Are you going to have that very loud energy when you come into things? I think that's something that Yeet have done very well, is they have this loud, boisterous energy, and that will attract a certain audience. For us and maybe others, I think we want to look a bit more polished, a bit more clean, a bit more tap into that trust. So where I'm going with this is, I think it goes back to what you said of speaking the same language as your community, as your user. I think if you have a great product and you brand, market, and speak and communicate in the way that will be relatable for your target audience, those two things will already go a long way, because you've got the product which can retain people, and then you've got this voice which is attracting like-minded individuals, and you're amplifying that through organic social channels. So it's a very cost-effective way to get started, I would say. And then you just want to add some acceleration on top of that. And this is where the scaling comes in. When you see you've got something working, you see you're retaining users, people are coming back, giving you good feedback, then you pour fuel on the fire. And I think this is a case a little bit of pick your poison. I know a lot of brands have had success doing KOLs, in particular crypto KOLs on X, that can go very far. Most of them tend to go very heavy at first and then sort of taper off because they keep that little base of users. And then there is also more, they're called black hat, right? And this is something that I'm just learning about a little bit, is just to understand this world. But from what I've heard, you can get very good results with things like that if you want to sort of dip your toe in those dangerous waters. And then there's also software which can help you hyper-target users. There is some very interesting software that we are working with at the minute where you can link Web3 wallets to social profiles. And this is something that we're going to be using very heavily. So yeah, there are all these little things. You can pick your poison. I think, to be honest, there are a million ways to climb the mountain. I think what's important is that you don't try and do everything, right? Because there are guys who say, do this, guys who say, do that. And if you try and spread yourself too thin, you will, you'll probably not have the results you're looking for. So pick a few things which align with your strengths and execute on those. Do the basics exceptionally well. That's what our approach is. So yeah, I didn't really answer your question, I feel. I would just say, for me, it's about product. It's about having a strong community and speaking that language with them. And in terms of the actual acquisition sources you should use, I would say that's just pick your poison, but don't pick too many. And just do a few of them and do them really well, and you'll get results. Spoke to a guy at ICE, really nice fella, on fellow operator, been in business for about a year now. And he'd spent like $2 million on all these things for his casino, and they weren't doing significantly more GGR than us. And he was like, why is it not working, guys? Like, why is it not working? And to me, it just sounded like he's doing too much, right? If you just focused on crypto and really owning Web3, you could learn that, develop it, figure out what works, what doesn't, and get it right. But he told me, guys, I'm doing everything. I'm doing absolutely everything, and it's not working. And yeah, I think that's probably why it's not working, is because spread too thin instead of really mastering the essentials.
Yeah, no, great examples. So yeah, what I'm hearing from you is product, branding, which is relatable. I like the word as well. I use it a lot myself. And then acceleration on specific channels that you're mastering. Yeah. A little more about marketing, but maybe from a different angle. You've touched on this a few minutes ago, but there's a lot of noise in the last 6 months about 100% RTP games and zero edge games. But I always wonder, do you think players actually care about this? Do you actually hear some feedback from players, or is that mostly like industry ego, stuff that we people in the industry talk about a lot and put our fingers on?
So I think first of all, I'd say it's just a great marketing launch that they did, first of all. And it's not just the RTP in itself, it's the whole culture and the sense of rebellion that Duel launched with. And I think it all goes back to something I said a few times now, which is really knowing your avatar. Who is your ideal customer? And for Duel, it was this spunky, rebellious personality. Now, there are a lot of avatars who will love the 100% RTP, who will not play on any casino which does not offer that. And I suppose the question for operators is that your avatar? And I think there are many different avatars in the space where there will be people who don't care about that, because actually what they're looking for is the volatility. They want the massive big wins instead of just grinding out originals for the minimum volatility. Yeah. And I think there'll always be people who want a really bespoke, personalized and VIP customer experience as well. They want to know the guys they're playing with and have this relationship with them. So as far as I know, Duel don't offer that, because all of their bonusing is just effectively automated as this reduced house edge mechanism. And I think if you're a player who's really wagering millions and millions and millions, you want to know the guys, you want to have this VIP service, you want to have the guy you can message, and you want the bespoke personalization. And I think these things, there'll always be avatars and audiences which want that. So, look, I think it's a 100% RTP is genius. When I first heard it, I was like, oh shit, like this is going to squeeze margins a little bit more and make things even more competitive. But ultimately, as I said, you know, RTP is a bit of a misnomer. For some people, they just think, oh, that means I'll make more money, right? When actually it only comes into effect if you play for a long, long time. And then in theory, your losses will even out over time with the 100% RTP. But that's not what people are looking for, in the sense of the most aggressive players are looking for the high volatility, the max wins on the slots and things like this. So yeah, I think 100% RTP isn't going anywhere. But I also believe there will always be a subset of the audience who are just looking for something more, right? They're not looking to count the pennies necessarily. They just want a fabulous experience and are willing to even pay a little bit more for that.
Yeah, and speaking of players that are looking for something more, something different, differentiation and USP, in my eyes at least, is something very important. I touched on this. We touched on this in the first podcast I did with Martin. He called it a sea of sameness, you know, and you know, it applies not only to crypto casinos but also to fiat casinos. Most of them are same, but some do stand out. But more hypothetical questions, perhaps. If two platforms had identical games and bonuses, which often they do, what actually makes one win? Is it different branding? Is it different marketing? Like, can you maybe share some examples of stuff you've seen or stuff that, yeah?
So, for me, product is king in the sense of the fastness, smoothness, and responsiveness of the platform. I think this is something Shuffle have done exceptionally well, is they just delivered a fantastic product which has really seamless flow. It's very smooth and it's instant when you load up the games and all these things. So I think how the platform flows and feels is probably the most important thing in that sense. And the second thing is all boils down to the customer experience and the customer support. I think every ticket that comes through customer support is an opportunity to create a wow moment for them. And it really, really helps the trust by having this human, quick responses on the customer support, letting people know they're looked after and valued and trusted. I think this sense of community is probably the biggest thing that you can do to differentiate yourself in a sea of sameness, is like, be a human, right? Every human is unique and has their story. So just express that in your own way. I mean, obviously because I'm also thinking because there are terrible products out there which do very well because they just throw money at the issue and they have so much traffic and acquisition coming in that they can just fly like that. But if you exclude capital as the biggest lever, I'd say, yeah, it would be those two things. It would be product, fast, smooth, seamless, and then the customer support and that human feel. You've really got to stand out via your culture, via your community, via the language, via the genuineness of your team and the people around it.
Yeah, I like this example. I never thought of it that way. I usually think as customer support, like you mentioned, as an opportunity for maybe upsell, cross-sell, education, perhaps. I never thought about it actually as a potential for creation of community, but it's true. You do actually speak directly with the people, so it's a great example. Maybe a different topic, slightly different topic. Let's talk a little about AI. It's a word that's being thrown around a lot. Also, more recently in our industry. But as you might know, I'm a bit of an old-timer. I was born a few years before the current millennium kicked off. So this whole AI thing, it doesn't come naturally to me, especially. In fact, I think I'm quite inherently suspicious towards it, but that's just me. Now you, on the other hand, or people from your generation, you were born into this very tech-heavy era that we're currently living in. How often do you use AI? What are the biggest advantages it gives you in everyday life, in everyday work? Maybe you can share some examples.
It's been extremely useful for me personally. I think of my AIs as second brains, where it's a very clever and open brainstorming partner. So I think everyone now has access to second, third, and fourth brains with the AI. And you can also start to automate things, which is very interesting, especially with cloud now, which I'm playing with quite a lot. Yeah, look, I do think the hype is a little bit over-exaggerated. So, you don't have to worry too much that the world is just going to sail by you and you're going to be an old man within a year. But because I think this might be a bit off topic in terms of an iGaming podcast, but AIs itself, they're just LLMs, right? Which means they're just picking the most likely word that comes next, right? It's not this AGI. I think we're a long, long way away from these things being able to replace humans, really. I think for now what they are is useful tools, in the same way that Google Search is a very useful tool. But now, instead of typing things into Google Search, I'll more often type them into ChatGPT or Cloud and see what they say. Yeah, I think for now, I think we're just seeing a mild increase in productivity. At least myself personally, I know I can get things done a bit quicker. I can get access to being challenged on my viewpoints quicker with the AI. But writing content, I don't think it's good enough at that yet. I think you can always smell when something is written by AI. So you actually stand out more by being a human and not using AI. In terms of coding, this is the very interesting part, is because it's getting very good at coding. The CEOs of Robinhood and Coinbase recently have come out and said that up to 50% of their code is now being written by AI. And that's something I think was very interesting because these are very sensitive financial apps, right? Robinhood and Coinbase both manage your money, and the fact that they're so comfortable even saying that 50% of their code is written by AI is pretty surprising, but it also just shows you how good it is. So this is something our team are now beginning to explore a little bit more, is starting to maybe trust AI a little bit more with the coding side. But again, we can't get too carried away, because I think there's a lot of hype which is overblown, especially on X and Twitter, where people are claiming that you can, start a new business and make 200K per month straight away just by vibe coding an app. I think there are examples of this, but for sure they are the needles in the haystacks. So yeah, in terms of my day-to-day, look, I think it's made me a bit smarter. It's very good to have this second brain who you can consult with and spar with, and it can also prepare materials for you, like copywriting and different documents for internal purposes. But yeah, ultimately, I still think to succeed, you need unique thought. And I think AIs, by their definition, at the moment, cannot produce truly, truly unique thoughts and concepts. I've asked it before. I'm like, give me ideas for, a revolutionary crypto casino. And they're all really bad most of the time. So I think there is the frontier, the final frontier of human knowledge will always be led by humans, at least for now. And I think it's the same for business at the moment. Sure, I could do a lot of my job with AI maybe, but it will not be done anywhere near as well as if I do it myself. So yeah, I think you'll be all right for now. I don't think you've got anything too much to worry about but I would be using these tools just to help you in some little ways, right? I'm sure you do use these AIs a little bit just to chat to.
Yeah, I use it a little, yeah. But like you mentioned, I am a very strong believer in human and organic. Yeah, but it's changing. You know, things are changing all the time. Let's talk about a slightly different topic. Obviously, your team has grown in the past few months. You started as 3 co-founders. Now you have a bigger team. Talk about team building and hiring. And I'll start again with a quote from one of your posts. You've stated that growth comes from truth, not consensus. So a couple of questions about that. With a candidate that you're looking to hire potentially and interviewing, what's a red flag that will immediately make you say no? And at the same time, what do you look for in people that maybe doesn't show up in their CV?
Yeah, red flags is a really good one. For me, the second I see someone is uncomfortable with being challenged or uncomfortable with the directness, that's something which is an immediate turn-off. So I recall one time we were interviewing someone and he suggested that the average CPA would have been X value. Let's say it was $200. And someone else on my team was like, oh, like, we've seen sometimes it can be as low as this and blah, blah, blah. And immediately they were like, no, that's impossible. And they were almost angry that we were challenging their viewpoint. So I think for me, that's a huge red flag, is if you can't be challenged. You should almost want to be wrong, right? I know it's very difficult for humans. It's in our nature to want to be right. Like I'm very much like that as well. But like, think of how much a blessing it is if you were wrong about, if you were wrong about something your whole life and you didn't know, and someone finally pointed it out to you. How valuable is that? So this open-mindedness towards new ideas and being able to be challenged is very important, but also not too open a mind. Like, you've got to stand for something and you've got to be able to fight and express your values. But yeah, that would be the one red flag that springs to mind, is unwillingness or the sensitivity to being challenged. Because it also just means like, because also I'm a very direct person. So I like to give feedback where it's like, okay, don't do this because X, Y, Z, let me know what your thoughts are. Whereas some people like to be very wishy-washy. Hey, I saw this the other day. By the way, if you don't mind, I was thinking maybe you could do this better, but I hope it's not offensive, rah, rah, rah.
The more British approach, perhaps.
Maybe. And look, different people work better with different styles, right? So this is not an objective judgment. For some people, that environment will work better and lead to a more positive culture. But for me, it's all about, efficiency and effectiveness and getting to the root of things very quickly. In terms of how we scan for things that are sort of, you can't really put on a CV, this is the hardest part of recruiting, because recruiting is always fun because you're sort of having this interview, and I know when I've interviewed for jobs in the past, like, there's a mask that I've got on, right? There's this mask which you're showing your best version to the other side. And often you need time to really get to know someone and figure out the truth behind them. So I think how we can skip to the cross of that, Ikshu, and this is actually something I've stolen from Elon Musk, but he likes to ask people about their challenges. Like, tell me the time where you've really suffered from a problem and you've overcome it, and just walk through that entire experience with them. Because I think also a lot of people can't even be honest about those things, especially in an interview setting, because you want to seem almost invincible. But actually, you need to be able to work through and understand the person you're talking to's weaknesses as well, but also see the things that have made them them, which is not on a CV necessarily, right? So yeah, you've just got to find that depth. And again, just something stolen from Elon is this: just ask them, what is the biggest problem you've suffered through, and how did you overcome that? And I think that will tell you a lot more about someone than, what their most prized achievements might be. Ironically, though, a lot of those achievements will come through a period of suffering. I think there's always this paradox where the good comes from the bad, right? the times where I look back on where I'm the most proud of myself are usually because I've survived a period of really hard work and suffering and some big challenges, and I've come out the other side stronger for it. So, yeah, I think in terms of your question, the one would be red flag is certainly unwillingness to tolerate feedback or being pushed back on something. And the second would be, what struggle have you had in your life and how have you overcome that?
Yeah, no, and I would actually compliment that perhaps. What challenges have you encountered that you didn't overcome, that you failed miserably at? And can you talk about them candidly, right? Because we all fail, we all fail sometimes often. But what do we learn from it, or what kind of insights can we share? I didn't know this question from Elon, but I would maybe even complement it with that. So you talked a lot about a culture of dialogue, of challenging, of contradiction as well. How do you create a culture where people can genuinely disagree with you? Because I think this is important, especially when you're a smaller team.
I think there are so many things these reasons that you could give, but ultimately I think some things in life are very simple, and a culture at a company is just a reflection of the founder at its heart. A company is just a reflection of the founder's beliefs, the culture they set implicitly, and who they are as a person. So if you yourself are very good at being open and taking on feedback and not being afraid to express your own opinions, then you will receive the same back from others around you, because they see, okay, the founder is doing this, so it must be a safe space for me to do this as well. So, my favorite thing is I love when some of our hires disagree with us as founders. And I'm always reminding people that they should give opinions. And I could reel off a whole list of tiny things that I do, for example, that I find help. But whenever I'll post something in the group or suggest a course of direction, I always like to ask, can you boys pick any holes in this, right? Or have I missed something here? And they can start to work through like that. Another quick one I've stolen from Alex Hormozy. He says, if someone on your team does something which you don't like or is not part of the company policy or whatever, tell them immediately, right? The longer you let it delay for, the easier it is to be forgotten. And the quicker you pinpoint it, the feedback loop is even quicker as well. So they immediately know, okay, I should not do this, or I could have done this better, right? So, if ever I feel like I haven't been challenged or something, or I feel people aren't saying what they really feel, just call them out straight away, right? And usually they'll say, oh, no, you've misread the situation, or they'll give a reason for why they've not done that thing. And again, this is some more Alex Hormozy, but a very useful framework. Like if you think about why someone is not doing something, let's say you want an open dialogue culture where truth always rises to the surface. Does your team know that that's what you want, right? So it's like, do they know what to do, that they should do it, and how they should do it? So with all these things, explain to them, look, we want an open culture where truth rises to the surface. How can you do that? Just be honest and express yourself and challenge us. And just the why also is very important, where it's like, and we're not doing this to say your idea is bad or make you feel bad. It's just we need to be challenged, and we want the company to have the best things happen to it. And for that, you need to do the right things. And for that, you need to have the right conversations. So, one step at a time, step by step. But again, as long as your team knows what to do, how to do, and that they should do it, I think you'll have no problems, unless they fundamentally disagree and there's something psychological or other happening in the background there. But start with thyself, I'd say, is the answer. If you want a very kind culture, be kind. If you want a very high-performant, aggressive culture, you've got to be that yourself as the founder.
Yeah, good examples. So wrapping things up a little, you've had a bit of a journey with Rollify already. In retrospect, what's a lesson you've learned the hard way that you wish someone had told you earlier, perhaps?
there are no adults. And by this I mean we came into this space as outsiders, and we wanted to learn very fast. And I'll be honest, a mistake I thought is that we could hire someone with 20 years experience and they would be able to come in and not hold our hand, but like, give us this sense of this is exactly what we need to do, boys, don't worry. And ultimately, this just didn't turn out to be the case. I think, first of all, every company is different, and what worked at one company might not work at the other. So there's that. There are no ultimate facts which are going to hold true for almost every single business. And I think there are some people who, even if they have 20, 30 years of experience and working for big companies, that might mean they're just not a good fit for a startup, which is very different in the way they operate to a big company as well. So, yeah, in terms of this idea of not only are there no adults, I mean, the exception would be, I say, there are the people at their top of the game who, very expensive and who could definitely come in and show us all the answers. But it's very difficult to get those people unless you're highly bankrolled. So as a scrappy upstart, we're always looking to learn ourselves. And one thing we found is that, for example, we were working with an affiliate manager for a little bit. It was fairly easy for us to go in and learn it ourselves, right? And quickly we figured out that, okay, this is not working the way it should be compared to the other acquisition strategies we were using. Therefore, let's make some changes, and we can do this better than the way it was currently done. There's also a lot of legacy companies and software in this space, which some of them I'm glad we dodged the bullet on. And then with others, for example, we were playing around with an affiliate software. I won't name them, but yeah, it just felt like we could have built this ourselves almost, and it's a bit of a legacy tech infrastructure. It's not very user-friendly. So yeah, I think the key thing for us is trusting ourselves more as co-founders. Like we're hardworking, we're hungry, we're here to learn. So we can learn it ourselves. We don't necessarily need to go out and hire guys with 20, 30 plus experience who don't have startup experience, who might be expecting something different than it is as well. So yeah, there are no adults. Trust in yourself. And as long as you're hardworking and you're learning, I think you will slowly start to scale up, and you'll find that it's probably more of a better long-term solution than just outsourcing or hiring whenever you have a problem.
Yeah. So speaking about scaling up, looking ahead the next 6 months, the next 12 months, what needs to go right for Rollify, and what are the pitfalls you will need to avoid?
Well, a lot needs to go right, in terms of we've got to nail our product, we've got to nail the acquisition, and we've got to nail the retention. I think with these three things, they are basic, but they are not super easy to do, right? They're basic but difficult to do exceptionally well. So for us, if we nail those three things, I'm extremely confident we will have a successful product and a thriving community. Now, again, though, not that easy. There are a lot of pitfalls, as you say, to avoid. For us, it will be scaling the team too fast. I think we definitely want to keep a lean team to maintain this culture that we have as much as possible. Because, when you go from 5 to 25 to 50 to 100, you lose something with every increase in scale. So for us, we only want to hire when we feel that pain, when we're overloaded, we really need someone to come in and do this. So yeah, one pitfall we're trying to avoid is hiring too fast too soon, because we want the team to be very lean and high performing, everyone have their roles and tasks every day to just keep that momentum. We definitely don't want to spend our money ridiculously fast. I think that's something for us is everything we do has to have proportional inputs and outputs and measurements. So we're going to invest in marketing month on month and view the results and iterate on those and slowly improve over time, instead of something I've seen very often, not in this space, but across Web3 and startups in general. People will raise their seed round and then they spend it very quickly. And for us, again, it's having that discipline to keep that war chest, spend it in bits and bits and iterate, improve the product, improve the processes, and not hire too fast just because, oh, we've got this raise amount now, let's go hire this person. It's like, no, spend it, have the problem for your team where you've got too much going on now, and then hire. So really just thinking step by step the whole way through. Also, a huge pitfall is prioritization. You've got to ruthlessly prioritize because there are hundreds of things we want to build as a team. We have so many fun, unique ideas, all these tiny features, all these little improvements, but you've really got to see the big picture and ruthlessly prioritize what needs to be done and what doesn't. Because we've been there where there have been weeks where my CTO and the dev team will be like, Sean, you need to, like, the linear dashboard is a mess with all these tickets and so on. And it was a reminder to me of, you know, I've really got to center ourselves on what's important and what's not. Because there's so much noise. You have advisors or users and all these people telling you, oh, I want this feature or this feature. Then you have a bug over here, and all these things come together, and you just need someone to hold the line. And that's what I'm trying to focus on more and more these days, is ruthlessly thinking from first principles and having really clear priorities to make sure we're hyper efficient as an organization. Because I think a super big pitfall is falling into this mud of having too many things going on at once. No. Basics done exceptionally well. That's a mantra that we have at Rollify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm hearing, so to summarize a few things, stay focused, prioritize. Really good tips. Thank you. Sean, it's been a real pleasure having you here on this podcast. Thank you for making the time. I'm looking forward to meeting you and your team members, your co-founders, soon, face-to-face again. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure, Adar, honestly. You know so many people, and I'm very happy I reached out to you on LinkedIn because you are a natural filtration system, I feel, where iGaming is a very big space, a lot of sharks swimming in the waters as well. And with you by my side, I just feel a little bit more comfortable because I can just say, hey, do you know this person? Do you know that person? Blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, very happy to have made the connection. And honestly, it's an honor of all the people you know that I'm here, sat here on FAM podcast number 2. So, yeah, appreciate you, mate.
Thank you very much.